Start spreading the new.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
New York, I love you. I love New York.
What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Off the Ball podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron, and we are brought to you by the Off the Ball Network. And on today's show, I got a special guest with me today. I got one of the most talked about coaches, this summer. Everybody watched it, the LastChanceU show. They did the football, they did the first season of the basketball. So I'm going to introduce you to Robert Robinson, assistant coach of East Los Angeles College and LastChanceU superstar. What's going on, Coach?
Oh, hey, superstar. Hey, I'm going to take that on the show. Hey,
my girl loves you, too. She's in the other room. You and Coach, she's a fan of. She loves you guys.
Man.
I got her hooked on it because she wasn't watching it. She didn't care about it. But when I had it on, she when she just watch it, she walks by, watches it, then she just stops. She's like, oh, okay. Oh, and then sit down, and eventually tears at the end. Tears. She was crying.
We reeled her in.
You reeled her in, Coach. You reeled her in. So how you doing? How's everything going?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. I'm happy to be back on with some more East Coast and man, like New York has shown LastChanceU in East LA, like New York and New Jersey has shown us probably more love than LA has. And I've never thought of myself as the East Coast dude, but I've thoroughly enjoyed the last 2 months and reaching out and meeting 15, 20 guys who are just passionate about basketball in that Northeast area, man. It's been a real cool experience, and I'm happy to be here today.
Yeah, you know how it is, East Coast, and we talked about it a little before about New York City basketball and all that, and how we just love our basketball and all that. So I'm just happy to get to talk to you, talk hoop and all that, and get to know a little bit about yourself, in this show. So let's get into it. Like you're from Kansas City, Missouri, right?
Yes, sir.
Talk about the basketball scene in Kansas, because not a lot of people, you don't really associate basketball in Missouri, football town kind of. So talk about the basketball scene growing up there.
All right, I was born in Kansas City, Missouri. I lived most of my first 16 years in a place called Leavenworth, Kansas, which is about 10 miles outside of Kansas City. Leavenworth's most associated with the prison, have the biggest federal prison like in America. And so whenever I'm saying from Leavenworth, people look at you like, well, shoot, who was locked up? You know what I mean? And then when I say my dad, but he wasn't locked up. My pop worked in the prison. And so my pop worked at the big pen up there in Leavenworth. And so I spent the majority of my childhood in the Kansas City and Leavenworth area. And basketball meant a lot. Like sports meant a lot to the city and the community. They've always loved the Chiefs in Kansas City. They love the Royals. I grew up a big Kansas City Royals fan. They were so good in the 70s and 80s. We had the Kansas City Kings, and everybody loved them. They used to play out of Kemper Arena, but them fools just vanished in the middle of the night. Like they was playing the Sixers one day, and the next day they just got a moving van and moved to Sacramento. We were all looking around.
They pulled the Baltimore Colts on you guys?
Man, it was literally like that. Like we didn't even know as kids. Maybe the grown-ups knew, but we didn't even know. Like we're in middle school, and like the Kings are gone. Like the first Otis Bird song left and went to the Nets, and now the Kings are gone. Like what the heck happened? So it's a pretty big. And then we caught college, man. Nothing's bigger than KU hoops, and that's about a 20-minute drive from the crib. And
close.
They absolutely love the whole area. The whole state is KU hoops. They're huge basketball fans, and so basketball meant a lot to you as a kid. And like in our community, everybody hooped. There's not a lot of big cities in Kansas. There's not. You got Wichita, Kansas City, Kansas, Topeka. There's a couple. So my city was only like 50,000 people, but there was so many great players because basketball, like it mattered. It mattered so much. And so we would hoop, man. And basketball was a big deal. But I was and I had a brief stint too, where I lived in Oklahoma for a minute. My dad got a job down in El Reno, Oklahoma, and he took me down there, and I played there, which is a football place. I mean, my gosh, like you talk about like
country.
Oh my gosh, like that's and it was the 80s too. So fools was it was still very still distinct between black and white in Oklahoma in the 80s. It was very distinct. But man, if you could play football, it got gray real quick. You wasn't black or white. So it was a real interesting place living in Oklahoma. Met great people though, had a great time. Met I got friends today from Oklahoma that I love and I talk to. They're some cool folks. But when I got to high school, around 16-year-old, my dad moved me to California, and that begins my journey of being out in Cali. He moved us to a place called Lompoc, California, which is north of Santa Barbara and Santa Barbara County. I was close to the beach, which is crazy, thinking going from like the KC area to like Santa Barbara County beach area. Like that was whoa.
Culture shock?
Bruh. I mean, just everything, like weather, clothes, cars, people, like just everything was I was ready for it because if you live in that, like, it ain't like New York where like if you're in New York, you're like, okay, I'm from New York, it's cool. Like you live somewhere in Kansas, you're like, I got to get up out of here. You know what I mean? Like so the whole time you're thinking you want to get out, and when I was in 10th grade, my dad rolls up on me at a practice. I was at a track practice, and Pop was like, I got some real bad news, B. He said, we're gonna move, and I'm like, where are we going? He said, yeah, we're going to move to like the Santa Barbara area in California. Man, I believe I started packing before he finished the sentence. I was like, ugh.
You were thrilled. You were waiting for this.
I'm like, we out, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like we out. And so, and that was the end of 1988. And for the most part, since then, I've been a Southern California dude, man.
Yeah. So you were ready for it, right? That move and all that. And even, is that when you moved to California? Is that when you felt like you started your basketball journey as far as your growth as a player, or was that already established in Kansas and just grew when you got to Cali?
I knew I was a ball player when we moved to Cali. Like I knew that was it.
Because it's different in Cali, right? Because Kansas, I'm sure you got, but when you go to Cali, we all know the stories, about the old California legends.
They always ask, like everyone is like what's the difference between KC or being in Oklahoma area and then going to California? And I tell them like, hey, a Division I basketball player is a Division I basketball player. I don't care like what state that you're in. A player is a player. Yeah. However, the thing about Cali or Southern Cali, like in Kansas City, each year there might be 3 that are D1 dudes, right? You might have in the state of Kansas, the whole state, you might have 10, right? Mm-hmm. Out here, you'll have 10 D1 dudes in your conference for high school. Yeah. There's just so much talent from Santa Barbara to San Diego. There's just so much talent. It's just so populated. It's there's just more. It was just more, and that was kind of the shock coming from Kansas. Was that that was my shock. Was it wasn't the level of players, because I was playing at a pretty high level even through AAU and Junior Olympics and stuff. But it's just there was so many everywhere, and when I tell you it's humbling, I mean it's humbling. I mean, not to a 16-year-old kid, because of course, like we're the best ever. You don't know no different, but there was just so many dudes and great experiences, and because I was a really good track athlete too. I was a really good track athlete at the time, and I'd won a state championship back in the Midwest. So I was a state champion in 9th grade. Bruh, you come out to California, track. Hey, they have one state champion for the state. There's no divisions.
This is the whole state. That's a big state too.
If you the champ, you the champ. And so that was my first introduction in 10th grade as to how small I was, as a player and an athlete. And that did kind of shape me. That did kind of shape me going forward. I mean, as cocky as I was, I mean, you had to be humble coming out, because there was so many of them out here.
Yeah, I mean, I remember having that attitude, that cockiness going into high school, thinking you're all that, and then you get that. I remember the first game I played in high school, I was feeling good. I had a good week of practice going to that first game, and we got blitzed. Literally, I remember like it was yesterday, coach, like full court press, and we're like, we were all looking scared at each other, like, oh, we wasn't ready for this. We wasn't ready for this. And it was like, whoa, like, oh, it's different high school. Like in New York, it's different. Even though, I played in Staten Island, like, and it wasn't the best borough as far as ball. We were playing against the top team in the borough,
Yeah, yeah.
We were like, oh, we thought we could play with like the other schools. Like, no, we're not. We can't even play with teams in here. Like, you need to get that humbling experience. And that was I was like, okay, we can't think that we're all that. Like, we gotta
But then when
settle down and chill.
then when then I when back in 89 or 90, my brother played football. He lives in Leavenworth, Kansas, and he was going to Independence. Oddly enough, my brother played at Independence. Cool. It was a last chance place. He plays football there. And so we took an unofficial over to Arkansas University, and I went with him. And we walk in, and one of the coaches comes up who didn't know him, goes, "Hey, kid, what's up?" They go, "What do you position you play?" He goes, "No, I play defensive end." He goes, "Oh, no, you don't." And he pointed to some dudes over there. He goes, "They play defensive end." and I remember that was the day my brother was like, "Yeah, I'm D2." You know what I mean? Like he figured out his place right then. Like, well, all right, well, let's go to the next one. And so he actually ended up in Emporia State where he played football. But yeah, you have those moments, man, where you figure out like, yo, this is my wheelhouse. Let me just spin in this wheel.
Yeah. I'll go back to that game.
Yeah,
I'm 5'11". I'm the same height as I am now. I thought I was gonna be 6'4". Right. So I'm like, all right, I'm going. The point guard 6'4". The backup point guard 6'3", the center 6'6", and I remember just thinking, "Oh, I wasn't ready for this at all." Like, and it's just like, "Oh, we got some big boys." And I remember all year being the undersized center. I'm just battling. Oh yeah, one dude was 6'8". I'm like, oh, like, and I think that hurt me for my whole rest of it, because I think when they looked at the film, they're like, "Oh, he's just getting outmatched and all." I was like, but I'm 5'11" and change, coach.
Yeah, like, man, this is where I'm at. This is
put me at guard or something. Like, I could do a little more, but it was definitely. But who was your guys growing up? Did you try to emulate your game after any players in the league or anything, or anyone from around where you grew up?
Almost everybody my age. First of all, it was nothing like it is today, and not that we didn't have players that you could emulate. It's that it was really hard to watch your players to emulate. Like there was no, you couldn't watch your team. Like for me, the reason I picked up a basketball was Dr. J. That was the reason. And I was definitely more into football first than basketball. Definitely. I loved Earl Campbell, and I wanted to be a running back. And it got me really into sports at a very young age. And I love boxing too. It's weird that I like my first memories on this planet are watching boxing with my father, and every fight after. It's pretty weird. But I wanted to be football, and I got into basketball. And when I saw Dr. J, it's like I was sold, and I would spend every night, with my Nerf hoop in my room, in the late 70s with my Nerf ball, like doing all Dr. J's moves. But it was so hard to watch because I'm not from Philly, and CBS might show one game a week, right? They might. And if you got TBS or WGN back then, you might catch them against the Bulls at WGN, the Hawks on TBS. And that was very rare. So you had to wait till the playoffs, or every day I'd have to read the newspaper. I mean, thank gosh, that's how I learned how to read and remember stuff, was just trying to figure out what my sports heroes were doing at the time. Because even Sports Center, although there was Sports Center, it wasn't a thing. Like Sports Center wasn't a thing in 1981. They had it, but they might be talking about a men's softball game on Sports Center in 1981. It wasn't like it is. It wasn't like it is today. So I emulated. I wanted to be like Dr. J, but then that really evolves as you start watching, because then you really get into college, and then there's more pros with Magic Johnson. And I talked just briefly about the Kansas City Kings and a little earlier, and they had a guy on that team named Otis Birdsong who was an off guard, and my dad used to take me to the Kings game, and I used to really I go home and shoot jumpers like Otis Birdsong and had that. One of the most influential though in my life, I went to a basketball camp when I was a kid, and this is why, I mean, if anybody's listening, how important like high school basketball can be in your community. I don't care what community it is, but I went to a camp in 5th grade. It was a clinic, and I go over to our high school, and we have one of the bigger high schools in the state of Kansas, Leavenworth High. And I go there, and there's this guy there. His name was Larry Doherty, and Larry was the star of the high school team. He's about a 6'5" guard. He ended up going to Valparaiso and played in college. This was back in like what 80? You're looking at like 83. This is back in there that area, 83, and like I was in awe of watching him go through the drills because he's dunking easy. Because I'm in fifth grade and I've seen Dr. J and him dunk on TV, but I haven't been there, to see it. And so I watched him at the camp, and he was my counselor. Like I was on his team when we played, and he was real nice to me. And then later on, I told my dad, like, you got to take me to the high school games, and that stuck in me and really guided me. Like that experience guided me through all the way to high school until I became Larry Doherty, and then I would, there was kids behind me that were doing the same thing, watching me dunk and do stuff and kind of do the same thing. So Larry Doherty was a big influence on me just at that moment. So, I mean, that's how important like your high school community and sports can be to a young man, because if it wasn't Larry Doherty, I mean, what if it was Slim over Northside Park hustling rocks? I could have been doing something different,
Exactly.
And so that's why sports is so important. And I'm grateful that I lived in a community where we took sports that important, and I was able to look up to that dude. But hey, Dr. J, hey, Magic, oh, for sure. You know what the problem was though, and you could probably relate to this too, is like if I really wanted to make it, like I was looking at all the wrong people. Like we're looking at all the wrong dudes, right? Like when I was in college, it's true story. Like I'm in college and my last year, and I'm watching the Knicks play, right? And I'm looking at Charlie Ward, and I'm like, what did I do wrong? Like Charlie's good, like he's great, right? But I'm like, I should have been trying to play like him my whole life. Like why would I try to play like these dudes?
Exactly, you're exactly right.
Like that's my wheelhouse. Like, and that's what I try and do now is I try to tell the kids like, hey, get rid of that move, dog. That's not you. You'll never be that. But you're never going to be that. You're never going to be James Harden, but you damn sure can be Patrick Beverly. Let's work on this. Let's
and you can make a nice career out of that too. Patrick Beverly's making a nice living, playing his role.
Not even, from a career standpoint. I'm just saying getting to your JUCO team. I mean, getting your Division III, Division II, Division I, getting on the court on that team. I'm talking about your experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
We just look at all the wrong.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Charles Barkley and Jordan and Magic, and I'm looking at all these dudes in the late 80s, and I'm like, what the heck was I looking at those dudes for? Like I'm 6'2", 190 pounds. Who's 6'2", 190 around here? That's who I need to be playing like,
Yeah. Exactly.
I was all off, man. I was all off.
I agree. I was probably the same way, and I probably look at it back now that I'm older. I'm 32 now. I'm like, damn, why was I thinking that I could be like Ben Wallace or like Jermaine O'Neal? Like I should have just, shot low, and I probably would have been a better player. But I was thinking I'm going to be 6'6". All right, I'm already 5'11". I'm going to grow. At the end of my freshman year, I'll be 6'1". I literally thought I'm going to be 6'1", right? So by the time I hit varsity, I'm going to be 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". I'm going to get a D1. That's because I could block shot. I could defend everyone on the court. So I'm going to be a monster. It never happened though. So I never, taught myself how to, be a better ball handler, how to be a better passer. I was just like, I'm just going to be in the paint. Because this is 2003, 2004. It's not like today where, I could watch you. All right, I need to learn how to, I should probably do this pass and all that. I just thought I was going to be a big, and I just played that. And then like when I realized, like I said, that first game where I was like, oh, the point guard 6'3", like I got no shot. And then every year, like we struggled because I wasn't big enough. Like, and I'm like, oh, and that hurt me going down the line because I didn't make the varsity because I wasn't big enough. I was a tweener. They're like, well, you're not, you don't have enough ball handler to be a guard or shooting skills, but you're too small to be our center or power forward. So I was like a tweener, and they're like, we don't really have a spot for you. So that's why we can't put you on. We know you could defend, but it's like, I was like, oh man, like I just wasn't blessed with but like understanding like, all right, I don't have to shoot to be like, Jermaine O'Neal and all that stuff. Let me shoot a little lower and try to play that style. And I think sometimes a lot of people everyone wants to be James Harden. Everybody wants to be Steph Curry, Kyrie. It's like, most likely you're not going to be that. And I'm sure you see that, with a ton where everyone wants to be, that point center and think they could bring the ball up like Jokic and Embiid to Julius Randle, and it's like that's not your game.
Every kid's playing the wrong game. Like they're all playing the wrong game, that's because they want to get to there. And I understand the hustle and the dream, and who's to knock it? You know,
Yeah,
I just know that if you want a really good basketball experience and you find that box that you fit in and be great in that box, and you can have an incredible basketball experience because as a ball player, I don't know when you stop playing, but when you stop playing, whether say it's your senior year of high school, those memories going to have to last you the next 70 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I stopped playing when I was 24, 25. Okay, I'm 48 now. That had to last me till today and for every day after this. And so the better that experience that you can have as a basketball player, the better your life is going to be down the road, like looking back. And that's what I try and give to all the kids. I just try and get them in there, get them in that right box, get them in that right wheelhouse so they can have a really good hoops experience. And then that can last them a lifetime.
Yeah. For me, for basketball, like I was a way better football player. I probably could have got a D1 scholarship the way the trajectory I was going, but it was basketball. I wanted to be a basketball player, coach. Like I just wanted to play ball. Like I remember, you know, when I didn't make the basketball team, like being devastated, like hurt, like why didn't I make it? Why didn't I make varsity? Went back again next year, and that's when they told me like we don't have a spot for you. We don't know where to put you. And just being devastated. Like when I got hurt playing football, I hurt my back and tore my calf. I did a bunch of injuries and I just was like, all right, I can't do this. And then we're going to change my position. And I was like, all right, it's just not going to be. But I was like, basketball. I just wanted to be a basketball player so bad. It's something about the game that I was just like, I just, every year I tried out, I worked my tail off, practice and all that. Football, I was like, I'm just naturally good at it. Like I'm just, I'll be there practice or I didn't go to any training camps with football, but with basketball, you told me there's a mini camp. I did. Like and it just that passion for basketball. I just love that. I wanted to be a basketball player so bad.
And you know what? There's so many people from your city that are like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't meet a lot of. I know a lot of Giants and Jets fans. You know what I mean? I know a lot of them, but that don't mean that they was football dudes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like everybody, almost everyone I've ever met from New York is a hoop head. Like 99% of them are hoop heads. And as to your point, like it got in your blood at some point.
Yeah.
It just basketball takes a hold of you like that. It's the weirdest thing ever. It just takes you and it won't let you go. And you would rather be average in basketball than great at it.
Exactly.
That's 100%. What I was a much better track athlete than a basketball athlete. And even in college, I mean, I was an All-American in the high jump. I made to the NCAA finals in 1996. Coming out of high school, I mean, I had the greatest scholarship offers in track that a track athlete could. I mean, I had some really good ones. And I was like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna go to this JC so I could hoop. And people, even my family was looking at me like, you're not going to go to Cal or SC so you can go to this JC and hoop? I'm like, yeah, I'm a baller. Like I'm going, like, it wasn't even a question. I didn't even think about it. I didn't weigh the scales. I was like, I'm out. Like I'm going to ball. And so it'll take a hold of you and it just doesn't let you go. It's like you literally, once you're sentenced to it, it's 25 to life.
Oh yeah, agree. And you hit it on that. Yep, exactly. It's just something about it, especially being in New York City. It's like you have to like hoop. Like it's kind of like, especially I grew up in Brooklyn. Like it's just you just have to be. It's just in your system, no matter what, you know. So you went to a junior college after high school?
Yeah, I did. I went for a couple years at a place called Allen Hancock Community College. I did have a basketball scholarship coming out of high school. I just thought I was going to do something different with basketball. I was trying to shoot for maybe a top 25 team. And so I left that school after a brief stint and went to Hancock, where I was going to just earn my next scholarship, you know, and I wanted a little bit of a bigger stage. We talked about that ego earlier. That was huge. In retrospect, I mean, I like the experience. It's really shaped me through my years being a JUCO kid. But I probably could have stayed at the D1 I was at and had a really good career, you know, and probably been coaching there afterwards. And I'd probably be, you know, who knows where that leads, right? So as for Here you go. Hold up right quick.
I got kids running around too. I got my daughter.
I got dogs, kids, wife.
Half my podcast, you're gonna hear my kids and the dog in the background.
Everyone. Well, my kids are 22 and 19. So when you hear them, it's like some grown dudes like, hey coach, hey dad. Like, them's kids now. Like,
Yeah.
Those are kids. My kids have a beer in their hand. I'm like, where you get that from? That's mine. Like, what are you doing? It's a little different. The JC experience was really cool.
Yeah.
It really shaped me. It taught me that you got to earn.
Oh yeah.
You know, got to really earn something. But my first year at JC, I was actually going to sign early with New Mexico State, who was really good at the time, back in 1991. And the very first day, official day of practice, man, I blew my knee out. And, freshman, I blew my knee out. And needless to say, that scholarship offer wasn't there. Took me, and back then, back then it was a death curse.
I was about to say an ACL back then. I mean, not too long ago. It's even 10 years ago. It was a death sentence. Especially in the 90s.
Well, you're not going to be the same. Like you're going to change your game completely. Which to a point, it did. I was really athletic. Like I said, I could jump 7 foot in a high jump in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I could fly. I could run fast. I could fly. And something like that will ground you.
Oh yeah. Yep. I remember when I hurt my knee in high school, I was never confident again in planting and jumping. I did that fear. So I've torn my meniscus, LCL.
Yeah.
An ACL that's me.
Oh, I did. Yeah. I tore up some ligaments, and actually I had 3. I ended up having to get it cleaned up 2 more times actually through college. But it did change it, and it changed everything because like in high school, like I was really good in high school, although I only played 12 games my last 2 years because of injuries. I kept breaking everything. I didn't hit threes in high school at all. But then when I blew my knee out, like for a whole year, because back then they used to put you in a straightener for 6 months. And then it's another 6 months to recover.
Mm-hmm.
Like you couldn't just go out and hoop. So, and I'm a gym dude. Like I was at every practice, on crutches, even though I know I'm going to play for a year. I just had to be in the gym. I picked up a ball and just started working on my stroke, and that was it. And I ended up turning myself into a shooter. It was one of the better shooters in JC coming out here, a 3-point shooter. And I was able to ride that skill to Stephen F. Austin State in Texas. And I played there. After a season there, I bounced and I went to UC Riverside, which is out in the Inland Empire in Southern California. And I finished up there, and I played hoops there. So I had quite the basketball journey. And people always ask, where'd you go? And I was like, well, wherever my jumper paid the rent. That's where I went to school, man. Like, wherever they paid the rent, I was there.
So you have your college experience. Was there pro aspirations, whether NBA, whether it's overseas? Like, what's the thought process after college is over?
Well, all of us who play, at a high level of basketball, like you think you're going to make it to the NBA until the day your career's over. Like you believe it. Like, and so, I didn't have a really good idea of what it took to play professionally at the time. Like I don't know. I was just like, after my last college game, I was literally like, all right, when's the tryout for the league? Like, where are we going? What's
you still had that moxie.
Yeah, let's go. Like, what's next? I'm out there training, yeah, but it doesn't work like that at all, bro. And so I did get a chance to go to the USBL, which is kind of like the D League now. It's called the United States Basketball League. And I got a plug. I got a hookup from my uncle to hook me up with some other people, and I got a plug to go into there. But that started my coaching career, actually, because I hurt my knee again, and I ended up coaching the team. I was like a 25-year-old professional basketball coach. That was a crazy story.
I heard that story on the pod you did recently. That was a wild story.
That's wild, man. If I could tell you, it's even wilder. But so that kind of got me into coaching. But I wanted to play professionally. But it's when we talked about, you say you're the undersized postman, right? So one summer after I got done playing, they used to play the NBA Summer League out at the Pyramid in Long Beach. They have a Pyramids just where the Long Beach State plays their basketball games. Mm-hmm. It's a little, it's a gym. It's really cool, shaped like a pyramid. but they used to be out there. But it wasn't the NBA I don't think it was the NBA Summer League at that time, although the NBA teams would be in there. But there'd also be like the agent teams, a team from France, one of the top teams from France might come over and play. So it was one of those. So I was on like a free agent team. But the Lakers had a team there. The Jazz had a team there. Like Kobe was in that league. I think it was his rookie year, actually. Or they had really good players in it. It was like the NBA now, but it just didn't have that name yet. The NBA didn't figure out that they can make that much money doing it yet, obviously. But I was there, and I'm in this, and I jump on with this free agent team. It was mostly the Atlanta Hawks were on the team, I believe, and then there was a couple free agents. And I jump on a team, and I'm down there balling, and dude, I had like 17 points in the first game. Like I'm hitting threes. I'm running the floor. I got like a tip dunk. Like I was like I'm playing, right? But I'm guarding the dude playing my position. He's 6'8", and they just posted me up like every single time up the court. It was pick and roll, mismatch, post up, score. Pick and roll, mismatch. I foul him. Like that's all it was, And I figured it out. Like that night was like that moment where I'm like, I'm not gonna make it. Like I'm not the position I played. Yeah. Like maybe if I was a point guard, you know what I mean? Yeah, I was running around trying to do what Jason Kidd was doing, Jacques Vaughn. If I'm trying to do what they're doing, I was trying to be, like the two guards at the time. And I couldn't get down with those dudes, man. They was just too big. And they were bigger, more athletic. Bottom line, they was better. And so I just figured that out, and it wasn't going to be my thing, and kind of just slid it more into coaching because, that bug I was talking about, what else you going to do? I'm a hoop, Since my pops, my dad, he signed me up for basketball in the third grade. All right. 1982. He signed me up. I ain't missed a season since. I've played or coached every single basketball season since 1982. So it's for me, it's just logical. Like, what's next? Where are we hooping next? And then when I couldn't hoop no more, I'm like, well, shoot, I'm going to coach that team. I just kept it going.
That's a great mindset to have, though, because I'm sure there's a bunch of guys who want to once they like that realization that hoop is done and there is no other level, like that could really like affect you, and you don't know what else to do because it's been hoop since you, like you said, since you were in third grade or whatever age, since you were 2. So now when it's no more hoop, it's like, okay, like, wait, I gotta get a regular job. Like I gotta work at at the grocery. Like you gotta do regular stuff now, and that's a big transition. Just like when people retire, like they talk about like, oh, what the hell do I do? I'm 35 and I'm retired. I've been hooping for 30 years. Like that. That's a big, but for you, you're like, nah, let's figure this out. Let's go.
Yeah, and at the time, like I had 2 undergraduate degrees because I've been off so many schools and doing so much. So I had my undergraduate degrees in sociology and ethnic studies, and so like I got 2 degrees in sociology and ethnic studies, and I'm a graduate. And when it was time, I'm like, I ain't doing nothing with that. Where can I do something with basketball? I wasn't even thinking about thinking about that at all. So I just went over I got a job at a high school out here teaching PE and coaching basketball. And I rode that for 20 years, man.
How was that experience, coaching high school for 20 years and the success you had? How was that ride?
It was, you know what? It was really the interesting aspect of my 20-year run. I started in October of 1998. I finished coaching high school in 2019, in the spring of 2019. So for 20 years, I was a high school basketball coach. What was interesting is watching the evolution of kids. That was the interesting part because, like in the beginning, like you're on the end of kids having no power. Like when I first doing high school, like kids had no power. They didn't choose what high school they went to. They couldn't choose the way they played. Like they just had no power. Like when we grew up, we had no power. Like you was just told what to do, how to do it, how to play. Like if your high school that you at, if they're going to hold the ball and run offense for 40 seconds, that's just what it was. That's just what you had to do. It's not like your parents are going to be like, nah, man, we transferring to so-and-so so we can press and run. It didn't work like that. You just did it, And I got in on the tail end of that. So the evolution of the high school player and the freedoms that young people have to switch schools, to switch programs, how travel ball dug its way into our landscape and shaped how high school coaches do what we do, how college coaches recruit. It it was an interesting evolution. So you always had to be changing, with the kid. When I first started, you could just tell the kid, hey man, shut the hell up and sit down. 15 years later, you ain't saying that to no kid. Like there's some programs where you can, but for the most part, nah, man, these kids it's like a bill of rights now. Like the kids is like they can get you fired. Like just like that. Just like that. And so the other day I was up talking to a Division I coach, right? I'm in his office, and he said at his school, every athlete has access to this sports page on the website, the athletes do, where they can anonymously just put in a complaint about what their coach said. And at the D1 level. So
no way.
Well, he's like, they can just go in and be like, boom, 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 boom. All of a sudden, compliance and the AD is in your office. Like,
that's crazy, coach. That's wild.
I know. And at the high school level, you say the wrong thing, and that parent goes to the principal, and it's really interesting. You had to change with it. You just had to evolve. You can't complain. It is what it is. And you just got to go with the kids and watching the game change to where, when I first started coaching, you pick two dudes out on your team and you'd be like, all right, guys, you shoot threes. And now, like, everybody just shoots threes. Like, that's just part of the game. Like, everybody, like, your
big men are shooting threes. Like, it's crazy.
Like, your post player might not dribble, but that fool will catch at the top of the key, jab, and shoot a three. Like, everybody can shoot a three. And so the 3-point has evolved. The kids have evolved. It's been it was interesting, but towards the end, I was very successful at the high school level. And that was pretty cool. Like being one of the better teams in California, going to a state championship, winning a Southern Section title. Because in Cali, if you can get in like that top 25, like that LA Times top 20, if you're one of the top, bruh, it's intoxicating. You know what I mean? It's intoxicating to play against all of those great players. Like if you're watching UCLA in the Final Four, like every single kid on that team I coached against and probably beat at one point. You're looking at USC, like I beat the Mobley brothers in a high school game. Like we beat those dudes. Like you're around that all the time. Like, I mean, I can go on and like in this year's draft, like first rounders like Zaire Williamson and Josh Christopher. There's so many in the Mobleys. There's so many kids that we were just playing against like 2 or 3 years ago, and all of us like at the same time. And it was a great time for high school basketball to be good. And I was really fortunate and blessed like to be a part of it. So when I went out on a really high note. Although a brother got fired. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean,
you were coach of the year, right? You mentioned you were coach of the year before, right?
State coach of the year, bro, and I got fired. So it's they came in. I was at a private school, man. They decided not to be great, and
that's
they
unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. But they knew, like, you're not going to come into my office and be like, hey, coach, you're not going to be great anymore. I'm like, well, what are we doing? Like what, if we're not trying to be the best we're trying to be, then that's not really something that I can want to be a part of, especially after 20 years. If you're just starting out, you're like, hey, you just want a team, you want basketball. But after 20 years, and if you can do it, like, why not?
Yeah, you were successful. It wasn't like you had maybe a few good years and you just won coach of the year. Like you got your resume. I mean, the
school, but the school wanted something different, and that's their prerogative. That was their prerogative. My feelings was hurt for 15, 20 minutes. They was. I wasn't gonna stay there forever anyway, but it was still. It was still tough, man. It was a hard week in my life. I'm gonna tell you that. It was hard, but that led me to trying to get to college. Where when I lost my job, I applied to over 150 colleges.
I heard that on the last show, and I was like, oh, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of resumes. See that right?
Hey, I filled out an application at 150 different colleges and universities. And if you've ever filled out an application to get a job at a college, like that's not like, send your resume in, click this and go.
Yeah.
You're writing essays on philosophies and you're just doing all of this stuff, right? and I would do it day after day after day. 150, man. Hey, 2 people called me back. 2. The coach at Portland State, who's now at Texas Tech, and the assistant coach at UC Davis are the only 2. And they called to say, hey, yo, Rob, completely respect what you did. We loved your teams because they recruited my guys. Mm-hmm. So they're like, hey, we don't have nothing, but hey, good luck. That was
the dreaded but. I've heard that in the sports media, like so many jobs, the NBA, NFL I've applied to. Oh, your resume is tremendous. We love it, but you don't fit. And I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, come on, you got to give me something better than that. Just tell me the truth. Just tell me that whatever. I'd rather just the truth.
And I got to that, and I went and talked to some college coaches, and they told me the truth. One of the best advice dude told me. He said, just because you're a viable candidate, don't make you a viable candidate, not at the college level. And so I was pretty disheartened the summer of 2019. I was thinking about taking that first year off, like I said, since 82, right?
Yeah.
82, I've been doing it. And I was going to take the year off, and I was resigned to, I got a teaching credential. I got a degree. I got a master's degree in education. I can go teach. And in California, a teaching gig pays pretty well. So it's not like I'm going to go hungry. If I want to go teach, and I called the coach. I called this coach over at Cal State LA. It's a D2 school, and I asked him for a job, and he tells me, just like everybody, like, we don't have anything. I'm sorry, Rob. This and that, and so I get off the phone and I get a text from his assistant, a guy I knew who recruited my kids when he was at another college, and he texted me and said, here's the number for John Mosley at East LA Community College. He goes, he's a friend of mine. I used to coach there. He's looking for somebody today. Call him.
Ooh.
And so I was like, all right, well, shoot, let me give him a call. I knew East LA because they were pretty good. I didn't know John personally. Come to find out, we played against each other in college, though.
Oh, really? That's cool. That's cool.
And I knew Coach Hunter, because he recruited my kids. Coach Hunter recruited you probably. You don't even remember, but that dude recruits everybody across the country. He knows that. So he had recruited my kids as well. And so I kind of knew who he was. And so I called up John, and John said, hey, yeah, I'm looking for somebody. Come on down. And we started up a relationship, and I didn't know if I wanted to do it. And he didn't know if he wanted me to do it. So it took a week or so to kind of figure that out. But hey, one day in July 2019, I walked in there and I was like, Coach, if you'll have me, I'll do it. And at that time, the offer was, I kid you not, a stipend for $5,000 for the year.
I remember you talking about that on the Netflix. It's
$5,000 for that's what we were talking
for the year.
$5,000 for the year. I just gave up a job where, a dang near 6-figure job. You know what I mean? That's why I just got fired. And so he's talking about $5,000 for the year. And I'm like, I don't know how I can do that.
Yeah, that's tough.
I don't know how I can do that. But I came home and my wife was like, nah, man, we're going to make it work. You figure it out.
That's awesome. That's a blessing. A lot of people don't have that. They'd be like, nope, you got to find something,
Nah, bro. Nah, you're going to get in your car because it's an hour drive each way. You're going to get in your car. You're going to drive down there and you're going to do what you've always wanted to do. And so, man, do you talk about just stepping out on faith, bro? I just stepped out on faith and said, all right, John, I'm going to do it. And if I do something, I'm going to do it. When I coach our kids, I tell them, listen, if you think you're a D1 ball player, you don't wait to get there to be D1. You D1 today. Exactly. You are a scholarship player today. If you're thinking that's where you want to go, you can't be like, oh, hey, when I get to such and such, hey, that's when I'm going to start doing everything right. It has to happen. And I wanted to be a college coach. So from day one, I was like, I don't care if it's 5,000, 50,000 or 500,000. I'm going to be a college basketball coach. Yeah. And that's kind of how I approached it. And 4 weeks into my job, Coach Mosley tells me, yo, hey, Coach, you ever heard of Last Chance U on Netflix? And I was like, yeah, for sure. He knew the whole time and never told me because he wanted to make sure I was there for the right reasons.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense.
And so he said, "Hey, you ever heard of Last Chance?" I'm like, "Nah, yeah, we love the show. I love football.
The football, yeah.
My kids play college football. Like we're a football family."
Mm-hmm.
And man, I got on the phone with my wife. I'm like, "Babe, like you can't even believe what this dude just said." Like I was like, he's talking about LastChanceU coming to film, like East LA, and like I could be on that show. And she was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then I was like, "Yo, that's cool." And you still don't realize the impact of it, though. Yeah, you really don't. Even to the end, you know what I mean? Like when they finished wrapping up and we got off the bus in March of 2020, I remember like, oh well, that show's gonna suck. Like I didn't think nothing of it.
Far from her, Cole, because like I said, I got my girl hooked. She doesn't watch. Like she was hooked from she got and the roller coaster of all the players she was invested into Joe and all that. Like she really loved Joe. Like and like just your story and coach's story and like you don't realize. I know you're gonna say like you didn't think it was gonna be good, but that invested like we had to watch like. We watched the whole thing the whole one day, like, and she was crying.
we had no idea because to us it was 2019-2020 basketball season, which was no different than the year before, which is no different than what we're doing now. Like you just grind it out. Your kids got problems, you fix these problems. You got talented kids, you moving them on. I mean, it's JC. If you're any good, man, the heartache is real because something went wrong. Like if you got a D1 player,
I went to a JC. Well, because I failed out of my college because I was trying to be an agent. So I kind of took the road of like an athlete. So I saw what you saw. I saw the kids that were at, big time schools, football and basketball. That were at North Carolina. Some were at playing at Baylor, big time schools. And now they're in little 2-floor building in the city. Yeah, it's New York City, but you're traveling everywhere. You're not on the buses. You have to travel on the city bus, the ferry, and all that. So I saw the show. And for some, they were like, I'm here so I could get out, right? Yeah. And for some, they just couldn't figure it out because they're so stuck on, man, I was just at Texas. Yeah. And I was just in this big, and now I'm here, and they can't figure out, how do I get, and they get stuck. Yeah. Some get stuck, some figure out how to get out. And I'm sure you saw that so much. You see that a lot where people get stuck and they can't figure it out. Well, and there's some that want just, I got to get out of here.
And that's what you guys saw, because like, how many people, 100 people have told me like, God, like, how do you deal with those kids acting like that? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you deal with their emotional outbursts or their attitudes like that? You know how many people like, I wouldn't coach that kid or I wouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. What you're just talking about, like to go from where they are, like mentally or where they were physically to that environment to where like our kids are coming on buses, trains, Ubers. I mean, it's a grind to get to East LA at 3:00 just to practice. Yeah. And so you got dudes that are like being recruited on the phone and then hang up the phone and got nothing to eat, no ride to practice. Mm-hmm. And so then when you foul them in practice, how you think they're going to act? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're going to be acting. Yeah, you're going to throw chairs around. You're going to break down like most people would. There's very few. And on the show, you guys got to see like 2 or 3 of the stories that were pretty tough. But during that season, we had 2 guys on our team, bro, who didn't quit at one point. 2 out of the 15. 13 dudes at some point took their stuff off and was like, yeah, it was too much. Like, I'm out. Like, we didn't see him for 3 days. We didn't see him for a week. Like, every dude, like, they made it look like it was Joe. Right?
Yeah, they did.
It was Joe, and there's things on there where you'll catch it smooth. Like, I mean, there's one episode where Coach Mosley rose up to Deshaun while he's sweeping the floor, and he's like, "Yo, Deshaun, I ain't seen you in 4 days." Like, if you're not paying attention, you don't even catch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the same thing. He said the same thing with Malik. Like, you like in his office, like, you ain't gonna be here for a couple of days. Now you're gonna be here, and you don't even. But you caught it with Joe because they made it at that emphasis. So, hey, I feel for these kids, man. My heart is so much for them because I know how hard it is, and that's why we don't give up on them, man. That's why you get that emotion. Now, hey, they're not rewarded for acting like that.
Of course.
Nobody's playing because you're having outbursts. Not like we're like, oh, hey, okay, Joe acted like that. He gets to start next game.
Yeah, you guys did. You guys benched him and all that.
Yeah. The whole season, he's the most talented dude on the floor. He didn't start one game, and so we didn't reward anybody. But you understand, like Like, like you're looking at this kid, and we got a kid that's driving an hour and a half from Lancaster every day. He just spent 2 hours in his car to get to practice that has no air conditioning in his car. And that fool gets out the car. Of course, he's mad and angry.
He's
now
already.
he comes on the court, and now he ain't touching the line, or he ain't in stance long enough, or we don't like his intensity on defense, and we coming at him. And you think of where he was when he got out the car.
He was already ready to go, you know.
Yeah. And so at some point during that practice, he's gonna kick a chair and be like, "Man, screw this, man." You know what today was like? Like, I had this ink paper due. I ain't got no air. I can barely breathe in the car. I'm looking for gas money to get home. Like, that fool would literally be like, "Hey, yo, you got $2?" So I like literally trying to put it together to get home. That's why they act out like that. And so, hey, you gotta coach them through it. You got to love them through it. You got to be disciplined, because ain't nobody more disciplined than Coach Mo, as y'all saw. Mo on it. He coaches them hard, but ain't nobody giving up on these kids, man. No, ain't nobody. If you in the family, we like the mafia, dog. Like, if you in East LA and you in the family, ain't nobody's giving up on you ever. Ever. Once you got to get in, though. It ain't easy to get in. We come at you. You know? It's hard. Like, we'll have 30 dudes the first week of August on the team. And we come at you hard, and we're going to get down to 18 to 15. And then you in the family, and then you in the family for life. That's how.
I think that's why I love the show so much, because, like I said, I went to a JUCO. I understood that. So when I saw John have these outbursts, like, I understood it, because I saw guys just like that were just frustrated. You know, they're at this level, and like they want to get to D1, but they get so frustrated. And I would always help them. Like, we had a bunch of sports, man. I would help them out. I was like, I'm gonna help you out. Hey, let's get out together. Like, you know, I got aspiration to go to a big D1. It may not be playing sports, you know, that's past, but hey, I can represent you in a few years. I'm trying to be an agent, you know. Maybe so I connected with, I had relations, but I helped them out. So I understood that, you know, they got a lot on their plate. So that's why it resonated so much. I understood Joe and all the guys, their frustrations and all that, and dealing with school, and, like you said, traveling, that aspect. And like, I would hear the horror, like, same thing with LA, like same thing in New York City. There's a bunch of this. It could take hours to get to class in Midtown Manhattan. That's where we were. We were right in Midtown Manhattan, but it was a small little building. And like, you go in, it's not luxury. It's just, you got to get to work. And I would make sure I would try to help out to, at least, you know. And then when we said graduation, everyone was like, yo, it felt good when we got the graduation. And they're like, you hear, oh, this one's going to Syracuse. This one's going to St. John's. Yeah. To me, I felt like a teacher, like, oh man, I helped this person. Like, you know, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful. So that's why I felt, you know, that connection with the show and all that.
Well, then you definitely understand the process, like us, about what you just said, because, hey, how frustrating is it to live in a place where you can see where you're going, and it takes you 45 minutes to an hour to get to where you can see.
That's New York City. That's New York City to a T, because you can literally see, like, your building. We could see it, but it's 2 hours away.
You roll in like, hey, man, I'll turn the corner, man, coming out of on the 60 over by the 610, and I can see East LA from where I'm at. I can see it, and I'm like, I'm 40 minutes away. I can see it. That's right there. That's right there.
That's crazy. So how do you manage? All right, because we know these kids want to go D1, right? That's their aspiration. So how do you manage them trying to do their own thing because they want to show out for scouts and all that, and trying to manage the team to win a game? Because now those are two things you have to try to figure out, because you want to win, you want to get these kids to a D1, but now you got to figure out, especially with all the egos and all that, now you got to figure out how to put everything together so it all meshes well, so that and get these kids to D1, but we got to win games because that makes it look better and all that. So how do you manage that? Because that especially at the JUCO level, could be really tough.
I think that's what makes JC the most unique basketball programs out of all. Like, you start playing in 3rd or 4th grade all the way to the association. The most unique thing about JC is that we embrace that. Like, we understand that, like, we have a destination, and there's 2 highways that are parallel going to that destination at the same time. You have the team and you have the individual, and both of them are as important, because they're there so they can get out. You're at JC so you can get out. By that same token, you coach and you play to be successful and win games. And it kind of feeds on itself. If you have a really successful program, coaches recruit successful programs. You're successful for a reason, right? And so you're more, if you come out of a really high level program, you're more ready to go on. Like when our kids go on, when our kid goes to Central Michigan and just leads them in blocks and reboundings, well, that's because he got ready where we was at, you know? So it's a parallel highway. And to say it's hard is one of the biggest understatements, because you always have to wrestle with like what that kid needs and then what the team needs. And then like sometimes, like, especially get towards the end of the season, like the team is the most important thing. Like when you round the corner to end the season, like you are what you are at that point. You're recruited at what you're going to be recruited at that point. And then you got to get everybody kind of to buy in and say, all right, it's about the team. But those emotional outbursts and what you see in that uncertainty is because these kids are like, yo, like I only took 5 shots last game. Like, how am I going to get a scholarship? Like they don't.
You saw that a lot on the show too, guys.
Yeah, they don't see the big picture. Like it's impossible for them to see the big picture. Like a program like ours, we got dudes. Like I would say the majority of kids, like I'm talking to a high percentage, average more points where they're going than they do with us, because we run our stuff like a top program. Like we got kids who average 4 or 5 points a game and then go on and average 12, 13 a game. Like you look at our point guard that year, LJ putting up 7, 8 points a game for us at ELACC. Yeah, that fool gets 17, 18 a game in Chicago State, like right off the bat. Like they do better. Now, KJ's probably different because he's going to the Big 12. He's going to be on a really good team. He just went to Texas Tech. That kid was just ridiculous. But the rest of the kids and the guys before, like the couple years before, like they really did better, like at the next level. So they don't see, like, if we're successful, if you're a D1 dude, you play on our team and we are successful as a team, all right, it's given. You're getting out. Like that's now. Like we know that. People are going to come to recruits. Like I ain't saying you going to USC, you ain't going to Kansas. I ain't saying you going to Syracuse or St. John's. That ain't happening. I ain't saying that. But hey, you can end up at, Central Connecticut State. You know what I mean? You can end up at Cal State Fullerton, which are all good programs that beat those teams sometimes. You know what I mean? But it's hard to get a kid to trust you because all of them have trust issues coming into the door anyway. Their trust issues are real. So to get a kid to be like, hey, man, it's going to be okay. You don't have to play 30 minutes a game to get a scholarship. That don't compute with them. They're like, that doesn't compute. They're like, I don't get that. Like, you don't have to get 20 points in a game to get a scholarship. They're like, yeah, they don't understand that. Like, hey, be solid at what you do, and whatever you do here, we promise you it's going to translate to what's next. So you got to build that trust, but it doesn't really happen with every kid. It's hard, man. Those 2 parallel roads, bruh, that's a difficult one.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. Coach, this was a tremendous conversation. I'm really happy we got to have this conversation. But just a few more things before I let you go.
Get me.
Just talk to me about, what's your goals? What's your aspirations? What you had the Netflix stuff. It was great. You've coaching. You had a great coaching career. Great career. What's next? What do you want? What do you want next to happen? What's your goals?
Well, my immediate goal is to go back and help John win the state championship next year. That is my immediate goal. And there is actually, they begin talks. It's a possibility that they'll be back filming in the fall for season 2. Like I think they want to finish it as well. They want to see if we could do it. They want to kind of see, because it was kind of left out there, like, can they do it or not? The only difference is it's a completely different cast of characters. We have 2 guys off that team, and they didn't play much that are on this team. And but believe it or not, this team's more. We got a team right now that's probably more talented than that.
That was a talent. You guys had a very talented team. To say that kids wanted to come play for us after this, that's another. I was another thing I want to ask. Like, obviously the show was a huge success. You probably got bombarded with kids, good and bad that wanted to come play. I'm sure you got a lot of bad that were like, they showed you a video from the backyard saying, "Oh, I want to play for you, coach." Like, I'm sure you got bombarded. You and Coach Mosley got just killed with recruiting,
Hey, okay, so I'm in charge of the email account for basketball. Like, I'm in charge. So I read every email that comes in, right? I had no idea America had that many 5'8" point guards. I had absolutely no idea that there's that many, starting 5'8" point guards across the country. Like, I mean, hey, when I'm not exaggerating when I say hundreds, I mean hundreds have hit me up. I look and I'll be like 5'8", click, 5'8", 5'8", click. And it's nothing against them, right? It's nothing against them. And some of them could probably play for us. I'm not saying they're not, but bombardment. I mean, we've had 1,000 people want to come and 1,000 kids across the planet. I mean, you name the country, and I've gotten. I mean, maybe not China because they only let you watch like 3 channels, but I mean, all the other countries. I mean, if you name one in South America, the Middle East, Eastern Europe,
That's
Western
crazy.
Europe, Canada, Australia, like bombarded with kids. But Cali's different because we don't have scholarships. So it's like, if you come out here, you got to pay out-of-state tuition. You got to find yourself a place to live. It's not
easy. I don't think people realize that with JUCO.
Everyone's like, "Oh, we get a scholarship." I'm like, "Well, I don't have no scholarship." That's
no
why.
JUCO.
But we are fortunate enough, though, that like you can walk out our office door and just look in one direction, and it's LA. And there's enough talent in LA to win the national. You saw UCLA. That's all LA kids.
Yeah. You're right there. Everything's right there for you. You don't have to go out of state.
They have one dude on that team who's not from the LA area. One. That's just the LA area. Like 2 conferences in LA is UCLA's team. And so there's enough talent out there, and we're very fortunate. So because all our kids commute, like almost all of them commute. 90% of our kids have to find a way to get to school, like each day. So that aspect, it was, man, we became really popular, like really quick. So they could come back and shoot another season. And so I've had a few opportunities, to move on actually, but they weren't better opportunities than where I'm at the moment. My ultimate goal, I want to be a head JC basketball coach. I'd like to be a head JC basketball coach. And I don't know if I want to do it in California either. I'm thinking maybe somewhere at a national junior college, maybe somewhere in the Midwest, closer to my hometown, my brother, dad, because all my family's back in Kansas. Or I'd like to be a Division I assistant. And the reason why I want to do those 2 jobs is it's pretty simple. And you guys kind of seen it in the show. I'm just into changing the trajectory of a kid's last name. Like, they come to us, nobody's graduated in their family from college. A lot of these kids come from nothing. A lot of these kids are broken, even if their families have something, like they're broken. Because it's JC, like, hey, something's wrong. Something's wrong if you're there with us, and like something is drastically wrong. And so I'd like to be in a position to where I can change, that fool's last name to where he gets a degree. And when his cycle comes back around, like that kid, although basketball's beautiful and I want every kid to play it, right? But hey, there's a certain pressure that comes with that's the only reason you get out. The only way you can get out your neighborhood is because you're better at everybody else at playing basketball. Like, that's a lot of pressure. There's neighborhoods across this country where all you got to do is get a 3.2 and graduate high school, and you're going to be successful in life, right? Like, it's going to happen for you. Not saying you don't have to work hard. But like, you look at kids in so many different neighborhoods from Santa Barbara to Orange County or whatever, they don't have to be the very best person within 5 miles to make it out of their neighborhood. Like, it don't work like that, right? And so I'm hoping that, man, we can coach up and give opportunities to brothers that the next generation around, you don't have to pick up a mic or a ball to be successful, or at least in your mind, because that's what we believe, right? We all believe if the only way you're going to be successful if I do those 2 things, because you don't get to see it anywhere else. One of the most interesting things I think about COVID, and it's going to get like a quick tangent, is I'm really big into the stock markets, and I watch CNBC every day, Bloomberg, CNBC. I'm always right. So I've watched for the last 12 years almost every day, right? Nobody black on that show. Nobody, like ever. They had one dude, this one black dude who would be out in Silicon Valley who would check in with his mic, like, oh, out here, Bezos is doing it. That was it, right? After what happened to George Floyd, like a month later, like there's dudes at the desk that are black. Like when they do the Zoom calls with the guys from all these industries, now all of a sudden there's a short-term trader there who's black. All right, that guy could get changed, right? And so now I'm hoping that's happening going forward. So now I can at least show these brothers like there's something different. Like it ain't all hoops, man. It's not all hoops, and changing that trajectory is huge. Mine did. Like the only way I thought I was gonna make it was playing basketball.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Now I got an education. My beautiful wife has an education. We took care of everything. Like my kids know they don't have to be the best athlete to be successful in life. They want to do other things. And a couple of them play college football. But I was able to make a foundation, like build something to where they don't have to think like, I got to be the coldest here just to get out, or that's the only way that you can be successful in life, is to be on the Brooklyn Nets. Like that's it. Like that's how it is. So if I can give out scholarships and change that mindset and that trajectory, that's what I want to do. That's what I want. And ultimately in life though, man, bro, all I want to do is make everybody around me like successful. And that comes with maturity, because when I first started, bro, it wasn't like that.
No.
When I played, like, who can make me better? When I first started coaching, I walked on the campus. I'm like, all right, who on this campus can help me win? Can the player help me win? Does this teacher help me win? Does this admin help me win? Like, who can help me win?
Exactly.
But then over the course, as you learn and you grow and you evolve and you mature, you figure out like the more people I help around me, the more successful that I'm going to be.
Exactly.
So that's all I'm trying to do is every day is make every single person in my life like better. And if I do, well, I'm going to win, man.
No, you're 100%. Like I started my own sports media network because I wanted to help others and all that. And I've, just try to build something, and I know I can't do it by myself. So I make sure I put everyone on. Like I help people we've gotten athletes on the show. Like I got Charlie Ward on, like we've got a bunch of big time athletes on. I just talked to Kenny Anderson, just a couple weeks ago. Like we had Ronnie Brewer. I helped me and my guy.
Ronnie Brewer. I remember that.
Yeah, Ronnie Brewer. We did it. I have helped people like, get guests on and all that. Just together, we work together, and it feels good to help others, help you on this ride. So I agree with everything you said.
If everybody around you in your circle is successful, then how are you not going to be successful? Like It's impossible. It's impossible if I'm talking to everybody, like the maintenance guy. I'm helping that fool every day.
Yeah.
Like the counselors, the teachers, the person at the food truck. I'm helping everybody, because if they're successful, dude, I'm winning. I know.
Exactly.
I know I'm winning, man. And
that's a beautiful thing.
Kenny Anderson. I told this player the other day, we were in a gym, right? That's funny you said that. We're in the gym and we're doing this basketball drill. And my guard is dribbling high, right? He's dribbling high like that. I'm like, fool, you ain't Kenny Anderson. He's like, what?
Ooh, Kenny was cold-blooded.
I was like, Kenny Anderson is the greatest high dribbler I've ever seen in my entire life. Like most players got to get low the ball.
Yeah.
He'd be up his shoulders. He'd be like this balling, and nobody could mess with him.
No. It's funny because when I had him on the show, he was like, man, if I just practice hard. I was like, you had a year, your all-star season, you were 19 and 10. You was 9.9. I'm like, you were 19 and 10. So like when I heard that, I was like, if he just told me if he worked harder, he could have been 25 and 12 or 15. Like that was the most telling. That was like, wow. Like he worked hard, but he said he could have worked harder and could have been better. Like to me, that was crazy.
A ball player's regret is like no other.
Yeah, and you could see in his eyes that he's like, man, I could have been a multiple time all-star. Like I could have been a Hall of Fame potentially.
Hey, if we could, I mean, I wouldn't sell my soul, but whatever else, you almost would just to get like one game back. You know what I mean? Like it's the regret is so real because you knew even if you worked your butt off, like you was working on the wrong things even. So the basketball regret is real.
Yeah, it definitely is. But coach, This was a pleasure. I really appreciate this time. This was a blast.
Yeah, man, it was fun. And dude, like during the basketball season, hey, catch up with me. I tell everybody, hey, circle back around. Hey, we do it again during the hoop season. If Netflix is there, you'll be in. You know what I mean? Like you'll get the scoop before the scoop. And I'm always down for talking hoops, man, with anybody, especially is going to show a light or a platform I can have so that people can support like their high schools and community colleges. Yes. If somebody's listening and they're watching this and they're like, oh shoot, like if I support this community college or this high school coach, that dude will change that kid's life. You know what I mean? Everybody's always looking for ways to like help like kids, like inner city kids or the youth or whatever. Well,
I'm big on that.
Sports work. Like, I don't know. Take all of your money and put it into sports. Sports works, man. It works better than anything else. Sports work, man.
You hear that, New York City? Sports work. We need to invest more, especially in our public schools and all that. Invest more into the sport.
I know they'd be like academics. Yeah, of course. But sports should be as important. And if they are, fools will be motivated to be there every day. And then at some point, a kid will figure it out and take responsibility for his academics. It might be 17, 20 to 25. I don't know. But at some point, it'll be like, well, shoot, hey, I'm almost graduated. Let's go. All you got to do is hoop and stay eligible and you get a degree.
Boom.
That's it.
Boom, right? See?
Sports works, man. Just support coaches and programs. Man.
Yes. I agree with that 100%, Coach. All right, where can the people find you, Coach, on social media?
Shoot, is this it right here? Because I'm not very good at this, homie.
Coach Rob _ ELACC.
Is that my Instagram?
Is it?
It might be my Instagram, man. Did you hit me on Instagram or Twitter? Which one was it?
I hit you on Twitter.
Okay, hey, yeah, tell them my Twitter. I think it's Coach@Coach2RZ. Am I right?
Yeah. I'll put that all in the description.
Yeah, put that
everything's gonna be in the description.
Hey, anybody hits me on Twitter, anything. If you email the basketball page, I'll hit you back. I hit everybody back, man.
You were quick too, and I appreciated that. You were quick, and we set it up, and I truly appreciate this.
Dude, I've done, hey man, like, hey man, I know
you got a few of my guys on my network that you're gonna be on their show, and they're looking forward to.
Dude, it's a beautiful thing. I know I probably should say no. You know, I probably should. You know, but like, how do you say no, man, to a dude that wants to talk hoops?
Yeah,
like it's not like I mean, I'm talking hoops. Like how do you do that? And like, ain't nobody made it, and I feel the same way. You know, I'm grinding every day so I can get to that D1 level or that head coach JC level. Like I'm just where everybody else is, right? So hey, if we can all help each other, then so be it.
Exactly, Coach. I'm rooting for you heavy. You know, I'm rooting for you heavy. I hope all your dreams and aspirations come true. You were great on the show, and you were one of the favorites. Over here. So rooting for you big time, Coach.
Hey, light skin is always in.
We got to stick together.
It's always in.
We got to stick together. But Coach, once again, thank you so much for coming on Off the Ball podcast. Like I said, I'll put all the social media stuff on the description, and we'll get the show out soon. But on that note, I'm Chris LeBron from Off the Ball podcast, Off the Ball Network. Make sure to follow me on Off the Ball Pod on all social media platforms. Make sure to follow the show. The show will be on Dash Radio also, so tune out for that. So on that note, Chris LeBron, that's Coach. We out.